Networking, a terrifying concept for many, attractive to some, but still either approach or either view on it requires some work and some prep. Today we're going to talk about the value of it, how to approach it, the best tools to use, and to help get your confidence higher when you embark on this very important aspect of job search, whatever age you're at. Welcome to the Canadian Career Coach. Hi, I'm Keith. The advice I'm going to give you today and some of the tools, best practices, and where to start can be used at any age. I've used this approach coaching students from 17-year-old undergrads to 47-year-old executive MBA students. I myself went through a career change and requiring a job search when I was probably around 50. And that was daunting. And a lot of the tips and tricks and approaches and mindset, most importantly, that I'm going to discuss today helped me get to the point where I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, and got me to the point where I can do videos such as this for you today. So thanks for joining me today. Let's get into it. So when I first say networking, there were a few images that probably pop into mind. Usually either terror, or fear, or confusion, or you're just a deer in the headlights and you're not really sure how to approach it. It doesn't necessarily scare you, but what does it actually mean? The key to proper networking is that it's all about relationships. You currently are doing it right now with people you are related to, with people that you're friends with people that you work with. Sometimes it's a combination of all three. Conversations that you have, questions that you have, whether it's in a formal or informal, whether it's in the boardroom or at a pub or in the living room, these are conversations that you're having where you're asking questions and you're learning about new things. One of the key components of networking that I live by and stand by is that networking is not job search. I'm going to repeat that. Networking is not job search, it's research. Yes, networking will enable your job search. Networking will help fuel it and help you achieve success in it. But that's not the intent of the conversations. You are learning. You are going to be reaching out with people of interest, getting their insights and their advice based on their experience and their expertise, asking them fun and flattering questions. That's a loose equation that we're going to come back to many times during this conversation. But it's something to keep top of mind. When you're not sure where to go to next or what stage you're at, insights and advice, experience and expertise, fun and flattering questions. It's important to understand that networking involves interacting with others to exchange information, develop contacts, expand your circle of acquaintances, learn about opportunities, and to increase your awareness of news and trends in other fields and in the greater world. Nothing about a job in that. This will result in you building out that circle of influence and getting on people's radar and being someone who's top of mind when opportunities come up. There are many things that we'll cover today in the tools and tips and approaches. The one thing you do not get to control, as with life, is time. But you can increase your chances of being successful over time using these tips and approaches in today's video. So common misconceptions about networking is that it's sleazy, maybe it's kind of artificial, you feel like you're selling yourself, which self-promotion isn't what you feel comfortable with. We did talk a bit about how to communicate your personal brand and your unique value contribution to an organization in the previous videos. You can get a link to those. You should see them up in the top corner of the window right now. I recommend, I'm a bit biased, but I recommend that you go back and view those if you haven't already, because those will play a big role. They'll make some of these conversations easier if you're comfortable with that statement and those strengths and skills that you bring to opportunities and to roles. Networking can also feel like it's daunting because you're talking to senior people. What could they possibly benefit from talking to me? Why would they care? Well, a big part of networking, especially if it's someone senior, again, going back to that equation, experience, expertise, insights and advice, fun and flattering questions. When you're reaching out to someone who's a bit more senior to you, or younger than you, quite frankly, but has more experience in that specific role, you are thanking them for their time. That's what they're getting from this. They love to hear that. They love to be seen. People love to be acknowledged at many different levels. Sometimes it's monetarily, but a lot of times it's just someone reaching out. I recognize what you do. I appreciate and respect what you do. I'd like to ask you some questions based on your path, as I could be on a similar journey myself, I hope. So that's what they're going to get out of it. They will benefit from this. It's just not necessarily it's a one-to-one relationship. They're going to get instant gratification out of the conversation with you, where you will see the benefits over time. The other part that can throw people off is just your natural tendency. Are you shy and introverted? This can be very, very terrifying. This can be very daunting if you're shy and introverted. Where do I start? I'm not naturally like this. I'm not a natural talker. That doesn't necessarily make it a good thing. Being someone who talks a lot and sometimes too much, I have to rein myself in if I want to have these types of conversations, because I need to stay on point so I'm not rambling off. I'm happy to, and I have in the past to my detriment. The key is having a plan going into this. So if you're more shy and introverted, you're more likely to follow that plan and to want to and to embrace that plan. It'll make you come off as someone who has great communication skills, who's thoughtful, who has very, very interesting questions, who has put a lot of preparation into it. Some of the best networkers and communicators I know are people that normally are quite shy and reserved, and it's not their greatest joy to be up in front of people or engaging with someone one-on-one on some personal questions. So don't let that stop you. Having too much exuberance in that cannot always be a good thing. The thing to remember about networking relates back to things I've covered a little bit before. You do it every day. It's not a learned skill or a talent. There really should be no selling required. No one succeeds on their own. It's only going to be uncomfortable or that sleazy or sales feeling if that's how you approach it. Being real and authentic is the best approach. And in the end, it is the single most powerful way to gain access to more opportunity and career growth. This is all about relationships, growing relationships. You all can do that. You're all doing that on a daily basis. This is just flexing that muscle in a slightly different manner. One of the biggest tools you can leverage is the coffee chat. The informal interview, some people call it. It's not an interview. It is a contact that you're going to make with somebody in a field. Again, not with recruiters, not someone who's going to hire you. Maybe, if that's what their role is, but that's not why you're reaching out to them. These are individuals that you're reaching out to with a very specific question because you need some help on your career journey as you go to that next stage. You're looking to do something new. You're getting into a pivot, whether it's by choice or not by your choice. And you might have the key skills involved, but you're not really sure what that opportunity is going to require. So where do you get that information? You get it from someone who's in the role, who has been successful in that role, so therefore is executing on those skills in a way that could benefit you and for you to learn from. They're not necessarily someone who can hire you. 99% of the people you have coffee chats with can't hire you. It's not their jobs. Those are recruiters. And having coffee chats with recruiters can be difficult. They generally hide on platforms such as LinkedIn because they will get inundated with thousands of requests, as many of my colleagues and friends who are recruiters have attested to over the years. But if you're talking to somebody who is successful in the role, who has done the role for a while, whatever that background is, they have impressed recruiters. They are the ones that the recruiters are looking to find somebody like. So who better to learn from that individual themselves? It gives you an opportunity to connect with that person, to learn about how they got into the role, what has made them successful. Things, if they could go back and tell their past self something, what would that be? Hopefully what you're hearing from some of these comments is it's not about you, it's about them. Going into a coffee chat and asking, what should I do to XYZ? Well, they won't know because they don't know you. Maybe, well, most likely they've read your LinkedIn profile, but they may not have the full picture yet. And if you're asking what you should do, that's a question that they might feel uneasy about answering. They have the ability to get that wrong. So ask them a question they can't get wrong. Ask them a question about themselves. Don't ask for an answer to your question. Ask them for a story about their life. What worked for them? Again, that going back and giving themselves some advice as a younger version of themselves. Well, that could be you. You could be them 5 years behind them right now, or 2 years, or 6 months, whatever that is. They probably have some very specific ideas on that. Oh, I wish I had known this. If someone had pulled me aside and told me that, that would have been wonderful. In a lot of cases, they're going to be thrilled that you asked them because this may be the first chance that they get to give that advice to somebody that they've been sitting on for a while. You can ask them questions around who helped them. What was their approach? Not only what did they learn about the role, what did they learn about getting the role? What did their resume look like? What was their approach to cover letter? How did networking go for them? Did it help them at all in that role? A lot of the advice I'm giving now is based on experience and based on people that are really seeking this help. If what I'm saying is proven wrong through your conversations with people that can help you with roles, go for it. If in my future video of mine, I talk about this, I have a structure for a resume that has proven to work very well. But if you're wanting to apply at company X and they say, well, all the successful resumes will actually look like this instead, different from what this guy Keith said, go for it. I'm giving you advice to help you if you're seeking it, if you don't have any other resources, if you don't know what the best approach is, what I'm giving you will help and will work. If you've got something better from a very specific source, 100% go for it. The advice I'm giving you in these videos is based on the information I've received over the years from very specific resources. So fill your boots, get it where you can. Hopefully I can play a role in giving you some advice that's going to help you on your way. In addition to getting their advice and insights based on their experience and their expertise on how they position themselves for the role, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, lessons learned along the way, you can also ask questions about the role. Maybe they work for the exact company that you're aspiring to work at, or they work for a competitor, or they don't necessarily work in that role, but they work at the company and you're looking to get a consultant job and they're more on the HR side, but they can still speak to the culture of the firm. So this is another way for you to learn about the company that you're pursuing as well. Some coffee chats at the end of it will result in you thinking, wow, that sounds like a terrible job, or I don't think I would fit into that culture. That's fine. That's a good answer. Networking, coffee chats, are about research, not about job search. If the research you get out of that is that it's a waste of your time to go there, or you wouldn't be happy, that's invaluable research. You did good. That you've learned something. Move on to the next thing. If it's an area that you are looking to learn more about, asking them their advice on how they stay current. What vlogs do they watch or read? What podcasts? Where do they get their information? How do they stay current with it? Authors, what have you, YouTube videos, who's their favorite? Get a book list from them if you like reading and they seem to have a good list and they have the same appreciation of that. Your responsibilities going into a coffee chat as a networking vehicle is, first of all, make a great first impression. Be on time, whether it's virtual or in person. Always be ready. Make sure you're dressed appropriately. If you're working there, what would you be wearing? Don't overdo it. certainly don't underdo it. The main 5 components that you're going to want to be executing on, that are your responsibilities to be executing on during the coffee chat, include making a great first impression by arriving on time, expressing your appreciation, and setting the agenda and the tone for the session and the meeting and the discussion, whether it's casual or more formal. Overview, reiterating some of the comments that you made in your initial outreach, whether it was on LinkedIn or via email or via a phone call. Going back to some of those questions we talked about, thought-provoking questions, focusing on them, their experiences, their expertise, not asking, how should I do this? It's more about what worked for you. Making sure you review at the end the actions agreed upon. This is a great time for you to ask for homework. If they mention a book that they read or something that they watched, take note of that, follow up with that. That gives you a great thing to follow up with them on 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever feels appropriate later on. Hey, I read that book. I really enjoyed the part about XYZ and it taught me about this. Would you be available for another 20-minute conversation to talk a bit about some questions around how that resonates with your job? And that's a key portion that I didn't mention before about the coffee chats. When you're reaching out to them, you're asking for about 15 to 20 minutes of their time. If it happens to go 30 minutes, if it happens to go an hour, wonderful. But asking for that length of time for some people's schedule can be very, very difficult. Most people's workday is broken up into 1 hour or a half hour chunks. So 15 or 20 minutes, that fits. If they've got a half hour chunk, that allows them to have a bit of a break at the start, connect with you, and then maybe get prepped for their next meeting at the top or the bottom of the hour. How you manage this time and how you manage the questions and how you present yourself is an indication of, is this someone I would recommend to somebody else, they're thinking. And if you're hitting all those marks, then I don't know if they're gonna hire you or I'm gonna hire you, but you've been vetted. I see you present yourself very professionally. I would feel I will look good by recommending you to somebody else. And the most important part of a coffee chat is the easiest, and that's follow-up. Within 24 hours, probably even that night, that evening, send them an email, thanking them for their time, giving a bit of a recap as to what you took away from it. It's not a long conversation or multiple paragraph email. It's just a quick, thank you. This is what it meant to me. This is what I learned. I look forward to hopefully connecting with you again in the future if I have any other questions. It's almost an invitation to the next meeting if you're looking to have one. If they talk a lot during the session and you don't get all your answers answered, that's fine. At the end of it or in your follow-up, you can say, you know what, I also had a question on XYZ, but I wanted to be respectful of your time. So would it be okay if I called you in about 3 weeks from now to finish up on those last few questions? They might say yes, which is great. They might say, yeah, my schedule is kind of full then, but since you asked, here's the answers. And they give you the answers in an email, which is great because you're only asking questions that you genuinely want the answers for. So however you get those is valuable to you. And one question that you have is, and where do I find these folks that I can reach out to for these coffee chats and these discussions? Well, there's many different sources and it's not as difficult as you think. One could simply be people that you already know or people that you're super comfortable with. Low-hanging fruit, that if the conversation doesn't go that well or for your first coffee chat you feel a bit uncomfortable, it's someone you know already and they're gonna give you a bit of cut you some slack. In having coffee chats, it doesn't necessarily always need to be face-to-face, as we've all become, unfortunately, accustomed to Zoom meetings. You can reach out to people farther away. You can reach out to people who, authors that you've read, you can reach out to them. They all have websites. I've reached out to, and I've had friends reach out to speakers at TED Talks. They did a TED Talk on a subject. They're pretty excited about that subject. They love talking about that subject. So if someone who reaches out to them to talk more about that subject, probably makes them pretty happy. If someone were to reach out to me and say, Keith, I'd love to have a coffee chat with you about doing YouTube videos or coaching or working in higher ed for a specific reason, and it's very clear and concise, I'd be happy to hop on a call and have a discussion. And afterwards, going back to the follow-up piece, if your mentor gave you some time, respect that. Keep them updated. If you had some successes, let them know about it. If you utilized something they told you, share that. If you read the book and enjoyed it that they suggested, this is how you thank them, and this is what they get from these conversations. Next, we're going to jump into the best approach, the tools, the messaging that you can leverage to get those coffee chats, to get those initial connections. The key ingredients to crafting an outreach message include being very clear as to who you are, what you're looking for specifically, why them specifically, the questions that you have that will relate to the first two pieces, and then an invitation of a very reasonable period of time to have that conversation. An example that I've used in the past as a template goes like this. Subject is biz dev intern seeking your insights. Very specific, to the point. Who you are, why you're reaching out to them. You don't have to have a lot of information here. If you're sending this out through LinkedIn, for example, they've probably already clicked on your LinkedIn profile and they've read a bit about yourself, which is why it's so important to have a fulsome, built out, clear, relevant LinkedIn profile. As I talked about in my previous video, that should also be popping up on the right-hand corner of this video right now. Dear Sally, my name is Bob Smith and I'm a fellow alumni. I was hoping to have 10 to 15 minutes of your time to ask you a few questions about your experience with technology startups. I'm trying to learn more about the new venture development, and your insights would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for your consideration, Bob. So that's not rocket science. That's very clear, to the point. You've thought about what you're going to be asking them. It makes sense why you have reached out to them. And that's a question that they can answer in that period of time that you've laid out. You've checked all the boxes. Not everyone's going to respond. On LinkedIn, I think the response rate is maybe around 30%, which is why you do this more than just once. You do this to several people. Don't do too many. Plan for success. I've had students and some clients that have gone whole hog on this, and all of a sudden they call me with a problem of having 20 coffee chats the following week because the 50 outreaches or the 150 outreaches that they did, a third of them paid off. So don't go too crazy. Also, that goes back to the time piece. Don't book one for 1 o'clock and one for 1:30 and one for 2 o'clock. Plan for success. Give yourself, if you've asked for 15 or 20 minutes or half an hour, give yourself the hour to debrief after it as well. So you're not, the last thing you want to do during a coffee chat with someone that you're very engaged with is say, yeah, I gotta go. I got someone else I got to talk to. Not a situation you want to be in. As you're seeing, there's 4 main components of this message, and this could be either on LinkedIn or this could be through an email. If you reach out to them on LinkedIn and you don't hear back, in about 7 days, it's appropriate to follow up with them again. You could do it through LinkedIn. If you happen to know their email address or you've found it, reach out to them that way. Hi, sending you this note. I reached out to you earlier on LinkedIn with the following question, wondering if this is a better platform to find you. Vice versa also. If you have their email address, that's great. That's personal. You know it's going to get front and center for them. Reach out that way. And if they don't get back to you, maybe their eyeballs are on LinkedIn that week. Reach out to them on LinkedIn. Hey, I sent you an email a week ago. The question I was asking you was this, that, and the other thing. Reiterating what you put in the email. But following up is critical, whether it's on the same medium or trying a different channel. How to prepare for one of these conversations? Again, a lot of these people you found on LinkedIn, so hey, probably a good place to start. Researching them on LinkedIn. What's their role? What have all their past roles been? Some of your questions could be, their current job is cool, but the job you're actually vying for is the one they did 1 or 2 or 5 years ago at a company they might not even work at anymore, but that's invaluable information to you. They're probably quite frankly, more likely to speak free about that because it's a company that they're not currently working with, so they don't owe them anything. So they're going to tell you the good, bad, and ugly of those roles, which will be wonderful for you. Researching the company as well as LinkedIn. What are they posting about? You're gonna, you can go onto their websites and read a lot, but sometimes it can be a bit dated. LinkedIn usually has what's happening top of mind, what's on their desks right now. What is something that's easy for them to talk about that they don't have to try and remember way back when that actually occurred. And to reiterate, when it comes to the questions that you're asking them, we want to be genuine. If it's something you can Google, don't ask it. It's okay to reference maybe something you found on Google or LinkedIn, but ideally your questions can be based on, or even phrased with, this is what I found, this is what I thought about what I found, so here's the question I have around that. That structured communication and structured thinking will impress them and make it easier for them to answer the question. It's going to get to where you want to get to faster and without causing too much wasting of time and hardship on them to answer. And with these conversations, it's not dissimilar to interview prep, which I will cover in a future video. Asking questions that are honestly your questions is the best approach because you're going to be smiling when you ask the question. You don't have to try and struggle to remember something. If it's genuine, if it's from the heart, if you're telling the truth, you don't have to remember anything. I heard that somewhere and I absolutely love that because it's on so many levels correct. If someone's struggling to remember something, is it that genuine? It's going to make people think otherwise. Types of questions that you can ask, themes, we talked a bit about how to structure them, but topics, not that any of these things I'm showing or discussing today are the definitive list, but there are things that might loosen up some cobwebs in the brain and get you thinking creatively. Topics such as, an icebreaker, asking about their day, asking about anything that maybe got them to this point. Questions around their insights. What do they uniquely understand about their field or their role? The fit at the firm that they're at. Any kind of advice that they would give to their past selves, like we've talked about before. How did they get started? What was their approach? The good, bad, and ugly of that. How did that work for them? They can give you tips on those. Trends, what are they seeing right now? What's happening? You might know X, Y, Z about a certain industry, but A, B, and C is what's happening right now. And that's what you really should be talking about and getting skilled up on as you're endeavoring to move into that area. And setting up next steps for possibly a follow-up coffee chat or other things that they can recommend that you work on. Or if there's something they're struggling to answer, not asking for a necessary referral, but say, if I did want to learn more about this, what would your recommendations, is there resources you know of? Is there anyone you would recommend I talk to? Not that it's sort of up to them to decide how they're going to move you forward. But giving them a graceful exit if it's an answer that they don't have because they just don't have that experience or for whatever reason. Respect that you may have asked them a question that wasn't completely appropriate for them, but it's still something you want the answer to and that it truly, truly interests you. Be honest. Hopefully you found some of those ideas and approaches doable for you. They fit into your style. Please send me some information in the comments or drop any kind of comments that you have down below for me to elaborate on it. I'm happy to engage in comments and answer your questions for you. That's what I'm here for. If you like the video to this point, please consider hitting the like button or hitting the subscribe button to watch more of these. I love making these videos. I used to get paid to do this and now I've moved on to other roles, which is amazing and my calendar is more than full, but I miss doing this. So if I can't do it one-on-one with individuals and I can do it en masse to an audience, that lines up with my why statement very, very well. So thank you very, very much for joining me for this video. Hopefully you're seeing a bit of a progression as we move through these videos, how one gives you information that's going to help inform and enable the next one. Thank you very much for your time today. We'll see you next time.